welcome back to Horror Queers. It's a Patreon intro, so I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace. And yeah, everyone, we are opening up the Patreon vault to release something that, well, we recorded back in 2019. So, of course, if you have been a patron, you might have heard this already. But we're dropping it in now for New Year's because
it's New Year's, yeah. Yeah, so folks, you may have heard that we were talking about the Into the Dark New Year, New You episode yesterday on Patreon. And we thought, well, what better time to also release the first episode that we did on Into the Dark, which was Midnight Kiss.
Both New Year's, both queer.
Yeah, and this one is obviously quite a bit more queer, so
yes.
We had a good time talking about the queer representation on the women's side in New Year, New You, and this one is just like all queer all the time, which I think is kind of a sign of the times of where we were at in 2019.
Yeah. I mean, I always make the joke where it's like, oh, queer horror is so hot right now because we're seeing more and more of it come out. But yeah, back in 2019, I mean, I even hate saying that, back in 2019.
Ooh,
Jesus Christ.
So long ago.
But yeah, no, I mean, this is directed by Carter Smith, of course, who listeners may recognize as the director of The Ruins and the upcoming Swallowed for next year. But yeah, we've also had him on our show talking about things like The People Under the Stairs.
Right. And of course, we also interviewed this cast when this film first came out. So we got a kind of exclusive first look at it. It's got a queer screenwriter in Erlingur Thoroddsen, who's got a new movie coming out next year. So it's very much like these were hot queer. I mean, they were hot queer gentlemen at the time, and they're still hot queer gentlemen now. But I'm interested, Trace. I mean, I don't think either one of us had an opportunity to revisit the film. We definitely didn't listen to the episode because we don't generally do that. But have your thoughts changed on Midnight Kiss since we covered it?
No, I think it's like a solid 3.5 for me, where it's like, it's just so close to being great, but doesn't quite reach those heights. But at the same time, I mean, it's a queer slasher film, and there's so much going on here. There's so much that this film gets right about gay culture, especially the toxicity of gay male culture, I guess is what I want to say. I just find it very fascinating and interesting, if maybe as a slasher film, not wholly successful.
Right. Yeah. I remember that we had some issues with the last act, which is ironic because if folks listen to our episode on New Year, New You on Patreon.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So I actually think that part of the issue is that the Into the Dark model just, it forces things to come together too quickly because they're trying to hit a specific runtime because that's what Hulu and Blumhouse were doing. So it's unfortunate because I think given a longer production, given a longer shooting schedule, this could have really been an all-timer. As it is, I'm in agreement with you. It's about a 3.5 for me. It's got lots of great ideas. It is so fucking unabashedly queer. And I remember we were like clutching our pearls in 2019 because we hadn't seen this level of queerness before. So in that way, it is a bit of a hallmark.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's weird. The time since 2019, like we've been doing the podcast that entire time, and so it feels like it was just yesterday. But yeah, this was in fact 3 years ago.
Oh my God. Time flies. Time flies.
But okay, everyone. So we'll stop talking about this. But of course, if you like what you hear, please head over to patreon.com/horrorqueers and you can sign up at whatever tier you'd like and get a bunch of bonus content. If you subscribe to the highest tier, we have over 220 hours of bonus content waiting for you.
Ooh.
Yeah, very much so. So, of course, for this month, though, our special episode, so as Joe mentioned, we already covered Into the Dark New Year, New You as one of our episodes for December 2022, but we've also got episodes this month on Terrifier 2, Christmas Bloody Christmas, Bones and All, Glass Onion will be coming out shortly this week, and an audio commentary on Scream 2, which we celebrated for its 25th anniversary.
Yeah, so much good stuff.
So much good stuff. But, all right, everyone. Well, we hope you've had a great holiday and that you do have a good new year. But until 2023, I guess, we can cross out, for now, Midnight Kiss.
Yeah, enjoy the episode.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to the Bloody Disgusting Network. The following show is just horrifying. Beware.
Sheriff, You're not cheating on your wife if you eat my lemon square.
Your lemon squares taste like ass.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. It's your Patreon, I guess, full-length final episode of the year, and I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking what might be the gayest film we've ever discussed. I mean, maybe minus Knife Plus Heart?
Well, it has... I was going to say it has fewer penetrative shots, but does it?
That's true. I mean, there's a... well, okay, so we're doing our first ever episode of Into the Dark, which is Carter Smith's Midnight Kiss. Full disclosure for listeners, you lovely, lovely patrons, we are recording this on December 2nd because we got a way advanced copy of this, so we wouldn't have to record this over Christmas.
And humble bragging rights, we're only the first two people to get to see this, so,
That's true.
No big deal at all. It's just that Carter loves us.
Correct.
And we love you, Carter.
But full disclosure with that too, the only thing that we know, so it is the final cut of the film, but Carter did let us know that the color and visual effects weren't final. However, I bet everything else was done. But after watching it, honestly, and Joe, we discussed this offline, but I don't know what they're gonna change, like what they're gonna add. Like the color to me looked fine, but I don't have that eye, I guess. But the VFX were also fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not like we had to see any kind of like, here
green
is
screen.
What yeah, here's green screen, here's like an animated fake sequence of storyboards or anything. Like, we got to see the full finished film from what we can tell.
That did happen to me on something that I watched where it was just like a green, so it was like someone was floating in the air and like it was them floating in a it was Claws. TNT's Claws.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because for some reason I get advanced screeners of Claws, even though I don't review it. I don't know how I got on this list, but there's a dream sequence where I think Niecy Nash is like floating like through the sky, and it was just her on a green screen.
Nice. Those are the kinds of behind the scenes images that I need in my life.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so we are talking Midnight Kiss, directed by, as we said, Carter Smith, written by Erlingur Thoroddsen, and I hope I didn't butcher that name. I think I said it right.
It sounded pretty good.
Yeah, but he, and listeners, y'all may know him if you have seen the movie Rift, or I think in Icelandic.
Or read our article on it?
Well, I was getting there. I was saying, I think in Icelandic it's Rokur. I think that's how you say it. But yes, Joe and I wrote an article on it for one of our very first Horror Queers articles back in March, I think, of 2018. Really good gay horror adjacent film, maybe.
I mean, it is horror because he's haunted by the nightmares of this doomed relationship, and there's blood and potentially murder, so... Yeah, I mean, it depends on how hard you want to lean into certain definitions of horror, but yes, it is great, it's quiet, it's moody, chilly, as you would expect an Icelandic film to be.
Well, it's kind of the opposite of this, which is... okay, so you know what movie this reminded me of, right?
I do not, but I'm gonna maybe go Sorority Row.
No.
Okay.
You think the words gay slasher, what's the first movie that people always think of?
Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Hellbent.
Yes, it does have a Hellbent vibe, even down to the fact that we've got a killer in a pup mask, which looks very, Devil Daddy from Hellbent.
Mm-hmm. I was actually a little... at least, and listeners, also, we did write an article on Hellbent. In our reader surveys, we had quite a few people request Hellbent for an episode, which we will probably do one day, but not for a bit because we already wrote about it. But I did because the devil mask in Hellbent makes sense, whereas the pup mask in this, I kind of wish there was a reason behind it other than, it's, kind of ingrained in queer culture.
Sure. Yeah. There's a few kind of outstanding questions, and I mentioned this to you offline, Trace, that I sometimes struggle with the length of these Into the Dark episodes. I haven't seen all of them, but the couple that I've seen, they're full-length films, and they sometimes don't feel like they have quite enough juice to justify the length. And I do feel that here with the protracted climax, but what I wish had have happened was that some of that sort of repetitive chase scene stuff had have actually been dedicated a little bit more to unpacking some of the weirdness of this killer's motivation.
I agree. I believe Erlinger wrote Rift as well as directed it.
He did, yeah.
I thought that was a very nuanced film. That is not on display here, but this was not really the film that he's trying to write.
No.
I thought the first half of this film was a lot stronger than the second half.
Yes.
And I hate saying that because I've written an article for Bloody before about how like the phrase devolves. It's really good, and then it devolves into a slasher film. Like has been used like think of Danny Boyle's Sunshine, as a critique,
right? Yes.
And that's kind of how I felt about this. I mean, even though it is a slasher like from the get-go, once it gets into those third act mechanics of the slasher film, that's when I was kind of like, okay, like this can be over. But I didn't think it was too long. It's like 86 minutes, but I do view these Into the Darks as movies. I don't view them as episodes, even though that's what Hulu and Blumhouse are intent on calling them.
Yeah, they're very odd because they celebrate them as monthly movies, but then they also brand it like it's a television show.
Without knowing anything about this, I do wonder...
Just in general, not knowing anything about this.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the movie business, whatever. But I just wonder, because I've seen... back when we did our Always Shine episode for the main feed, like I said, I had seen the first the first film, The Body, and I'd seen Sophia Takal's New Year, New You.
Right.
I have not watched another one since then until this. My husband, Andrew, has actually been going through all of them over the past, month and a half, 2 months. Mm-hmm. And he's enjoyed most of them, but, I think he maybe gave one of them 4 stars, and the rest are, 3.5s, 3s, with a couple 2.5s and 2s.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, they're fine. And so I wonder if these are scripts that Blumhouse had, and they were like, it's fine. We can't really make this into a theater film, so let's do Into the Dark. Do you think Into the Dark is, Blumhouse's, way of, way off some of these, scripts?
Kind of like a slush pile fund in a way?
Kind of. And I don't mean that in any offense to, of course, anyone that's worked on these films, but, obviously this is not a film that would go to theaters,
No, and yeah, I think if you look at it that way, as they're films with a lot of potential, they're working with some really great people. If you look at the list of directors
and the
talent,
cast, they get good cast. I mean, there's not really any big names in this one, but some of them do have names of them.
Yeah, and they're obviously throwing a decent production budget at them because they don't look bad for the most part. It kind of depends on which director you're talking about and what the premise is. Some of them are a little bit, I'm thinking of that first film, which I watched at your place during Fantastic Fest, which is The Body. It's just a serial killer who hangs out with a bunch of kids at Halloween. It's okay, but it's a lot of just them walking around suburban streets.
That's definitely one that does feel longer, but I remember thinking the gore was really good in it. Some of the kills in that third act are really cool.
Yeah, so there's pluses and minuses to this particular model. I do appreciate that, some of the horror television renaissance that we're experiencing right now, we're getting a dedicated amount of horror delivered to us. You don't have to go to the movie theaters to get a quality, maybe in quotation marks, horror film each month as a result of something like this. So I applaud their effort. Well, I agree with you that the execution can occasionally be a little bit lacking.
And in regards to this particular film, I actually do think Smith does a good job filming this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My biggest qualms, honestly, are with Thoroddsen's script. And not that I think it's particularly bad, because again, I think the first half is great. I think the way he develops his characters and represents a specific segment of gay culture is very, very accurate. And of course, it's the LA gay scene, or the club scene, if you will.
Of which we both know so much about.
I've never, I go to the gay clubs here in Austin, but I wouldn't call myself a club kid. Have I gone to clubs? Yes. Have I partaken in party
legal
favors
substances
at clubs? Yes.
Right.
But it's never been a lifestyle where I'm doing that every week,
No, I think there's a potential for certain queer audiences to look at this and say, it's not really super reflective of my everyday life. Whereas if you're living in a bigger city with more opportunities, if you're a little bit more affluent, maybe if you're a little bit more white, this is going to ring a little bit more true to you.
Well, that's also kind of the thing, though, is the whole time I was watching this, I was like, you know what? I know some of these people, in my everyday life, or I've met people the ones here. But I also know, I thought this would be a good film to talk about internalized homophobia, because I can also see some gay men watching this and be like, it's like mask for mass culture, whatever, and watching this and be like, that is gross. I'm not these queens, these women, on the scene. I'm just not into that. That's not that's why I don't want to be out or something like that,
Well, I think your comparison to Hellbent is actually pretty astute in that regard, that Erlingur, I'm sorry, I'm just going to use his first name because I'm not going to try to pronounce and butcher his last name.
Let's do that.
You know what? I feel like I interact with him on Twitter enough to justify calling him by his first name.
I've had a beer with him at Fantastic Fest, so.
Shut up. I hate you. No, honestly, I mean, we've interacted with both of these men on a number of occasions in different formats.
Right.
I think they're both great, and I really appreciate... I do think that Erlinger is doing a good job of... He is presenting a certain class of gays in terms of like, yeah, they're party guys, they're of a certain age, they're of a certain income bracket, but at the same time, they're not, you know, like we've got one character who's very femme, very bitchy, social media, Instagram star, you know, he's wearing furs, all these kinds of things. That's one archetype.
Right.
But our main character is very much the Eddie from Hellbent character, where he's more straight-laced, he's kind of laid back. He looks like the kind of person where you might say, oh, okay, that's just a guy that I work with. That, I find out on Friday he's going to the gay bar because he's a big old homo.
He looks like a more attractive Logan Miller.
Yes.
Like, that is
Good
exactly.
call.
I was looking at him to be like, what do I know this guy from? And I don't really know him from anything, although apparently he is in the morning show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese
I was going to raise that up because you had mentioned that you've been watching the morning show, so I thought for sure you were going to be like, hey, that guy.
No, I don't know who he's playing.
Oh, okay.
So he might just be like some guy in the background. I don't know. I mean, whatever, it's fine. But do you want to like just go into this? Because I feel like there's a ton of aspects of gay culture that we can and should talk about this, but I also want to talk about this as like a piece of entertainment that is being released by a major corporation in a very accessible way that is gay as fuck. It's super gay, and from the maybe not the first frame, but like after the intro with all the kissing through the years, like it is just butt in the first scene, and you almost
it's
get
kissing from the get go,
right.
And then butts, and almost cock, and then more butts in the shower,
yes,
and then people in a dark room getting handsy.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, my feelings about some of the narrative choices and the lack of character development for specifically the killer and Joel, who is the asshole of this movie.
Yes.
I was very impressed and quite pleased that they let Smith show all of this.
Oh, yeah. Like, okay, so if attentive listeners want to go back, you can actually hear Carter tease that he is directing this movie when he guested on the episode earlier this year. So in the People Under the Stairs episode, at the end of it, when we ask him if he has anything to plug, he says, keep an eye out, I'm directing this super gay, like unapologetically gay film. And it was also the reason why he had to delay coming on multiple episodes, because he locked this down and then he was off shooting this. So I think one of the things that he's most proud of is just how queer this film is, and unabashedly so.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, not only is there nudity, but there is a full-on gay sex scene with the what position would we call that? Like the side? Like laying on your side? Is there like a name for that?
If there is, I don't know it. Yeah, I just call it kind of like side missionary.
Okay, yeah, we'll call it that.
Like laid down doggy style.
It's not really, no, because I always think doggy style is like you're like the bottom's like bent over, you know, in some way. I guess like if his knees were pulled up to his like chest, then like maybe, right. I don't really know. Nah. But yeah, anyway, no, and we have like gay sex in this movie. It is.
Yes. I won't deny it is not the couple that I thought we would see having sex.
I agree.
And I'm mildly disappointed. I would have liked to see Cam and Dante get it on before they have some coitus interruptus.
I agree. I mean, their foreplay session, which, and also, again, leading to talk of condoms and PrEP is like super, 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 like you never, I don't think I've heard PrEP in a TV show or a movie ever. I don't think.
I mean, nothing now.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but obviously. I'm just saying, like, I haven't seen a form of media that discusses PrEP openly, which granted, It's down to like one line in this movie, but it's still there.
Yes. And a line that I missed, and you had to cue me to it when I mentioned it, but Trace, for the audiences who may be listening and don't know what the fuck you're talking about, what is PrEP?
Yes. So PrEP is actually a pill. It stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's basically used to prevent HIV and AIDS. So basically, if you're prescribed PrEP, which by the way, it's super easy to get and it's like free. At least in the States. I don't know if it is in Canada.
It is, from what I know, but I know you have to go to the doctor and like get your prescription for it.
Yes. When I was, I guess I'll just come. When I was prescribed it, I had to go to a clinic here that specializes in like sexual health, and they take your blood, you have to do a rectal swab.
Nice.
That was fun, and urine sample, all that jazz, and basically, it's a pill that you take daily, like birth control. And it basically reduces the effects of reduces the chance of you getting infected with HIV by about, I want to say, like it's up to 99%, as long as you use it as directed. You have to take it like this around the same time every day, preferably with a meal, not always. But anyway, we've come a long way since the 80s, and in the foreplay scene between Cam and Dante, he mentions having a condom and Dante doesn't have one, and Cam's like, cool, I'll go get one, and then Dante says, I'm on PrEP, and then as Cam is walking away, he goes, we can have both, and then he walks into the house.
Is it like the meme of that little girl who says, like, can we get chips or like tacos or crunchy and soft
kind
or
of,
something?
But important thing to note, though, PrEP is only effective against HIV and AIDS. It doesn't prevent, chlamydia, syphilis, things like that. So like,
gonorrhea,
gonorrhea, yeah. So if Dante had any of those other things, PrEP would not help. So it's helpful to use PrEP and condoms simultaneously. I am not advocating for random acts of bareback sex.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I guess that is one of the other interesting things about this particular episode. When I saw the logline for it, I thought we were going to be dealing with a younger population of gay men. So I actually thought that would be a really important conversation to have, because unfortunately, within every generation, there is sometimes a lack of historical understanding or even a occasional forgetfulness about the history of queer struggles in terms of activism, but also sexual health. And there's a population of gay men who have grown up with the advent of PrEP, and they now look at it as, oh, well, I can just have bareback sex. I don't need to worry about condoms anymore. Right. And they're overlooking this idea that it's not 100%. It's pretty fucking close. But at the same time, like, the world is still rampant with herpes and gonorrhea and chlamydia. So we've actually seen a rise in all these other STIs in the advent of PrEP, because people think that, oh, it's an all-encompassing thing. You're like, no, people, just play, but be careful.
People are so... Because, like, in the porn world and, like, just, like, the gay community, like, people are so into bareback, like, oh, condoms make it feel less good. And I'm just like, I've never really had, like, that big of a problem with condoms. Yeah. And by I didn't have that big of a problem, I don't have a problem with condoms.
Tell me, Trace, what is your problem with condoms?
Listeners, if this is you and, like, you are very much like, no, bareback is, like, what I want. And, so for some people it's a mental thing, for some people it's a physical thing, because yes, like, it feels better, quote unquote, without a condom on. But
it feels different.
Yeah. It's not, like, different enough to, like, make that much of a difference for me to be like, if I'm having sex with a stranger, I do want to risk getting all these things and not wear a condom.
Well, I think people should choose what best fits them, but it's one of those things where you should think about having a conversation with your sexual partner, whether that's some really cute boy that you met at the bar on New Year's Eve, or if it's like a long-term partner and you decide, okay, we're gonna, let's go off condoms because we're monogamous and all these other things. Like, whatever your rationale may be, it's important that people think about what is going to work best for them, the other person, because it's often, like, about communication. And then, just stay informed and, like, get fucking tested every once in a while, for God's sake.
Right. Absolutely. It's obviously a personal choice, but I just, like, it's amazing to me, like, in the advent of, like, gay dating apps, which this movie puts to good use with Grindr specifically.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay. Wait,
sorry, keep going.
No, I just want to say one thing. So it's like, while my husband and I were in West Texas visiting his family, I was shocked. I said, oh, you know what's going to be on these gay apps? There's going to be a lot of blank profiles and no pictures doing discreet, because that's like a class you can do. That was the case, but there was also a lot of BB only, like, all over the city. And
Which
I was
stands
like,
for
bareback.
Okay.
Were you asking for you or for the listeners?
The listeners.
Okay. And I was just
I'm down with the lingo. I know what the kids are talking about.
I know. But I was just really like surprised by that. So anyway, but like okay, so let's move into let's move into this discussion of gay apps.
I mean, so there's a couple of things, there's tropes of horror films like, when they arrive at this palatial family cottage and they talk about, oh, we've got reception issues. And you're thinking, okay, horror trope. So they're not going to be able to call the police later. Or they're going to have difficulty with texting. Sure, whatever. In this, our year of 2019, sure, weak cell signals. Okay. But I do love that they also have a discussion about like, yeah, at one point, Cam, who is the single gay at this location.
Right.
And he's not hooking up with Zach.
Isn't Zach single too?
Zach is single, but they've already clarified that the two of them hooked up when they were twinks fresh out of the closet and that it will like never happen again because they're not each other's type.
Right.
So Cam whips out his phone and he's checking Grindr, which I think we've talked about before, but is a gay dating app where you can meet people based on their geographical proximity to you. You get pictures, you get stats, you can get messages and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it also tells you your distance from each other. So like it organizes the grid of pictures like based on how far away the person is from you. Like, and then there's like a margin of error, of like it'll tell you like of 200 feet or like whatever. So there's that.
Yeah. What I liked about this is, it's a frank recognition that, yes, these apps exist and people do use them. Because so often, I mean, you don't actually have people talking about any kind of apps at all. They're like, I found love on the internet. And you're like, okay, that's good. But more to the point, the way that Cam is using it and the way that the conversation goes, it makes sense in the plot, given who the killer is revealed to be and the relationship that Cam has with his ex Joel that is revealed later. But particularly the disdain and the way that they talk about him, like, oh, you're never going to find something legitimate if you're looking for it on your phone. Like, you should be trying to connect with people in person. Like, these are conversations that are happening within the gay community. Mm-hmm. I think more so around people in my generation. Like, I've had a lot of conversations with people where they say it's really hard to meet somebody because you don't go to the gay club to meet people anymore. Because why would anyone? You've got fucking Grindr, you've got Scruff, you've got all these other options.
You know what, though? No, it's so fascinating to me, though, because like when we were in West Texas, we said there's one gay bar in the city we were in, which was very sad sight when you walk inside. It was sparse as fuck. Maybe it was the holidays or just because it's West Texas. But one of the girls that we were going with, she was like, why do you have to call it a gay bar? It's just a bar. And we're like, yeah, but it's...
No, it is not just a bar. Sorry.
It's different. She's like, I don't call it a straight bar. And I was like, well, we do. But it's
because every bar is a straight bar.
But it's also, I mean, yeah, exactly. But it's because, okay. And granted, I mean, I'm in a more privileged, younger set of the queer community because I at least had more opportunities, I guess, and like I didn't have it as hard as someone that's growing up, in their 20s in the 80s,
And you're white and you got money.
Yeah, exactly. But like gay bar, it's like a haven, like if you're in a town that is primarily conservative, but there's a gay bar there, that's where you can go and just be yourself. And
yeah, there's a sense of community, right?
I was trying to explain to this girl, my husband and I both were, and been like this is why we call it that. We have to specify.
Yeah. Whereas I think the benefit of something like Grindr is that people don't have to physically travel to a place that they may not feel comfortable at.
Right.
They may not have the benefit of an actual gay bar because they're increasingly closing down. They're a kind of outdated dinosaur model of business in the modern age. But also there's an anonymity that protects you. So you mentioned, we expected to see a bunch of headless torsos when you checked. Mm-hmm. And that's because if people want to remain closeted or under wraps, they can do so. So I love the discussion that happens in Midnight Kiss where there's at least a dialogue that acknowledges that there's good things about the app, but also bad. I mean, I think in this case, Cam comes off much more positively because he's our protagonist, but also because he's not acting all weirdly slut-shamey and like disparaging about making a connection online, which as frequent users of Twitter, I feel like you and I were like, no, you can authentically meet people and make a good friendship or relationship with people on the internet.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, yeah, this whole writing community of horror writers is that way. But I actually think that that's a good, I mean, not that this movie went that route, but that's a really good horror movie in and of itself, because even though, like, yeah, these dating apps exist and, like, the access you get to people, or, like, however close people let you get to them is terrifying. Like, there could be a horror movie built around Grindr and, like, someone, like, stalking you through Grindr, again, especially with the distance thing. And granted, you can hide the distance on the app, you know, like, so people don't show that, but it still puts you in order of the distance. So, like, if there's two people, like, around you that are, like, you know, have their distance up, then, like, and you're between them, then they can kind of put two and two together. It's fascinating, but also kind of terrifying to me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why technology can be used as such an effective weapon in horror films, right?
When Dante showed up at the house, I was like, I'm outside your house. That's what I thought was going to be his thing of, oh, that's how I found you.
Right. Yeah.
But no, it's just he works there.
Yeah, which I appreciated as a bit of a class critique, because they do frequently talk about, you know, oh, this place is so bougie, and Joel's parents, and, you know, then the person of color who is still alive in the film at this point basically says, oh, yeah, I know this rich bitch place because I worked here, because I have a job.
Yep. I'm just gonna pivot, I guess. I don't really know. I mean, like,
sure.
But
yeah.
What I was impressed with and shocked by was that there was no cocaine in this movie, because, as many people know, maybe it's a stereotype, but I also have seen it a lot, is that cocaine is a very big club drug, at least here in Austin, and I'm pretty sure it is in LA too, but they do Molly instead. And I was like, good for you, movie.
They're trying to advocate for a safer, more responsible partying drug.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying go out and do Molly, which, funnily enough, though, so the time that I messaged you a couple months ago, and I was like, yeah, we were in San Antonio and I did Molly from a stranger. It was the bag way. No, but I've only done it via capsule before. Sorry, I don't do Molly a lot, everyone. I've done it like a handful of times. But when I was drunk at this club, he was like, here's this bag of powder, and I was like, the fuck am I supposed to do with that? And he's like, yo, you lick your fingers, stick it in, and like suck it. I was like, oh, okay.
Which is what they do here, except they also mix it into their drink, right?
Right, but so I think they suck it, but then they also like do another dab and then like mix it sort of into their drink.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I was impressed with the lack of drugs all over the place. There's another gay slasher that came out earlier this year, which much lower budget, called Killer Unicorn, about a man and a killer unicorn and a unicorn mask that stalks drag queens. That definitely employs a variety of drugs a lot more throughout its entire runtime.
Right. It's interesting how, now that we're actually starting to see these really kind of queer intensive horror films, so, you know, Once Upon a Time Hellbent was the only thing that we had because everything else was subtext, and now we're actually getting entirely queer populated horror films, but we also then, you know, have to contend with the depictions and the lifestyle choices that they're deciding whether or not to include. Like, as you said off the top, you know, this is a certain subset of gay culture, you know, which means we are going to have drug use. Like you said, with Killer Unicorn, we've got drug use in there.
And I don't mean to like generalize again around the community or like the LA queer community specifically. I'm just going based off personal experience and what I've seen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like when you told me, you know, like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of drug use in this movie about drag queens. I was like, oh yeah, that matches the experience that I also had, where literally the first time I went to a gay bar, my boyfriend worked at the bar, so I got to kind of go behind the scenes, and he opens the door to the drag room to introduce me to like these performers, and literally the first thing I do is see somebody snort a line of coke. I'm just like, oh, okay.
There you go.
This is how it is. Got it. Okay.
It's just so open. I don't even know. Like, and I'm actually interested to hear from listeners though who don't live in bigger cities, who do live in smaller towns. Like, I mean, because that's the thing is, you know, like the people making these movies right now live in LA, and I feel like maybe some of them came from smaller towns, but like what we're getting now is this vision of LA gay culture, is kind of seeing how that compares. Because even you and I living in Toronto and Austin, like we live in a bubble because we're both in big cities.
Yep. And cities that are safer, cities that have larger communities.
But I wonder if if people who don't live in those bubbles, if they feel represented in this movie, you know? If you don't, it's not a bad thing. It's not the movie. It's not a bad thing for the movie. It's just, you know, do any of these characters on display here which I guess we haven't really gone through the characters entirely, so maybe we should do that. But like, do you see yourself represented in any of these characters?
All right. Well, now that you said it, well, why don't we go through our list?
We went through Cam.
Yes.
And then, Zach is the more effeminate one, wearing furs and being very flamboyant.
Mm-hmm. And he is our first person of color representation. So
yes. The first kill of the movie, who we meet very briefly, is Ryan, who is quote unquote slut, but he's off going with his sugar daddy.
Mm-hmm. Did they say sugar daddy or silver daddy?
They said silver fox at some point. But I'm pretty sure they said sugar daddy like on the phone, before he got killed. Which, by the way, like I've again, no tea, no shame, no shade, whatever. I've never really understood the sugar daddy thing, and I thought it was just like kind of like a funny thing people do, but it's like a legit culture.
Oh yeah, 100%.
One of my exes, I got drinks with him last year, and he was like, "Yeah, I live with this guy in LA, and he pays for my apartment and he pays for all this stuff," and I was like, "In exchange for sex?" And he goes, "Yeah, pretty much." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
It's like a more secure form of escorting in a way.
Kind of. I mean, he was having the time of his life. That's awesome. Like, I'm not jealous or anything.
I mean, you're allowed to be jealous if you want, because
I'm a little jealous. I would love to be rich.
People, living a bit more of a luxurious lifestyle at the whims of an older lover. Yeah.
So we've got that, or Ryan, and then we have Joel, who is the most like. I mean, yeah, he's the asshole. We've said that, but like he's the more like quiet, the most quiet of all of them. Like if we're talking about like gay types, I guess you would say he's like the more masculine of the group.
I wouldn't even categorize him in that way.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
Because if anything, I was watching this movie and I'm thinking, okay, who do I personally relate to? And I feel like you're meant to see yourself mostly in Cam because he's our protagonist, and he's the guy who has the baggage with the ex, who's got the promising career, but it's
I will say
what it is.
I didn't find Cam to be a born protagonist. He didn't suffer from protagonist syndrome for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, actually, because he could be considered the kind of blandest one because his characterization is simply that he is our hero. But, Joel to me was that OCD kind of very take charge business guy. So not to be offensive to you, but he was kind of you where he's like, I've got an itinerary. This is how we're going to do it. I've made this playlist. I've figured out what we're going to do. But at the same time, he's obviously revealed to have a certain amount of emotional, like intimacy challenges. I think he wants to be with a partner, but he also wants the luxury of having opportunities to play and step outside of that relationship, which is really where the entire conflict of this movie comes from. Because had he not introduced the midnight game, it wouldn't, basically none of this would have happened.
Well, I wish the movie would have done more like exploration of Joel as a character and the history between him and Cam. Like, they basically tell you, they got together, but then he made the midnight kiss game and like that broke them apart. Like, Cam broke up with him because he couldn't deal with Joel being with another guy that night. Like, is that basically what it was?
No. So okay, so maybe this is one part that I caught more than you. So when they're making out in the club, or when Joel tries to make out with Cam, so Cam uses Logan, who is Joel's new fiance. We find out at the beginning of the movie. Right. Logan is much younger, he's inexperienced, and there's a suggestion that Joel he's taken this boy, because he's obviously younger than the rest of them, he's taken him kind of almost in like a weirdly predatory way, because he can boss this kid around, he can make him do what he wants. And what Cam ends up revealing when Joel tries to cheat on Logan with him in the club is that this is how Joel operates. So he wants it both ways. So in their relationship, he created the midnight kiss so that Joel could fuck around, under the guise of like kissing somebody else on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And yes, you're right that Cam didn't like it, but that's not why he broke up with him. He broke up with Joel because he was too controlling, and Cam found that he was saying yes to things that he didn't actually want to say yes to.
Oh, yeah, totally missed that. Oops. Sorry, Carter Smith, if you're listening to this. And Erlinger. But I don't, like, okay, fine. But then we still don't really get a... Because then... When Joel goes after Cam in the back of the club, that I was like, okay, this guy's an asshole.
Yes.
And then, of course, with the murder of Dante, it's like, oh, he's a psychotic asshole too.
Yeah, that was the part that I wanted a bit more on, because we obviously get the impression that he misses Joel. Like, whether or not he regrets his decision, or if he's just like, you know what, I still want to fuck around with this guy.
We don't really
that part
know.
Isn't clear until you then see Joel murder Dante.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're meant to believe, okay, this guy is so either in love or fixated on Cam that he can't even let Cam be happy. So it could be just an extension of his controlling nature, but obviously it's being expressed in a really unhealthy way.
I guess, but then I'm like, well, why the fuck did you propose to this Logan guy then? If it's that though, I also know gays like that who are like, oh, it's all about like the show.
Oh, it's all about control, man. Like this guy wants to have somebody that he can boss around, but then he also doesn't want his ex to move on.
Funny little anecdote. So I have a friend who I went to college with, and him and his boyfriend have been together for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And he takes all these photos and basically like saves them and like sets times and dates to release them, like at certain time zones when they get the most likes and whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Took his boyfriend to Thailand. We all knew they were going to get engaged. We knew it was going to happen. And it didn't happen. Like, they didn't, like, announce it on, like, their socials. I was like, this is really weird. Then all of a sudden, like...
You're not even waiting to see whether they announce it publicly. You're like, oh, we just know it's going to drop in, like, whatever time zone it'll get the most likes.
Basically, yes. And so, anyway, so they come back. And this is, like, the beginning of November. And then, all of a sudden, like, he starts reaching out to all of us to go to their Friendsgiving. And so, hey, you're going to come to my Friendsgiving? Are you going to come to the Friendsgiving? And so we're like, okay, they're clearly going to, like, get engaged there. I was like, that's kind of weird. Why didn't they do that in Thailand? Mm-hmm. And nope. So we didn't go because we already had a Friendsgiving because they invited us a week before it was supposed to happen. And I was like, I have plans because I have a life. Thank you. But
wow.
Yeah. But no. So anyway, so we're at our Friendsgiving, and all of a sudden we see on Instagram, boom, all their engagement photos. But get this, they got engaged in Thailand, had a professional photographer fly out to take pictures of them, which is fine. But then they waited the 2 weeks until their Friendsgiving to announce it to the world and post it all over social media for like the biggest boost.
Weird.
But anyway, so that who are we talking about when I got out of these people?
I mean, I think you were trying to connect the dots between the way that Joel reacts around Cam and Logan.
Yes.
But we could just skip past that and introduce the final person that we've not talked about, which is Hannah.
I was going to say that we haven't. Okay, wait. So they don't refer to her as this in the movie, but in the log line, they call her a fruit fly, which is, I guess, the new like fag hag term. I have never heard this term before.
I think it's meant to be the more PC version. Like, we're moving away from an offensive, because if you think about it, you're calling a woman both a hag and you're also using the gay slur. So
yeah.
So what did you think of Anne Hathaway in this role?
Anne Hathaway?
Didn't you think she looked like Anne Hathaway?
Isn't she a person of color too?
I have no idea. Her name is Aiden Mayeri.
Okay, hold on. Oh, Iranian. She's Iranian.
Okay.
So there you go. No, I actually, when she came on screen at the brunch, because of course the meeting place for all of them is a brunch, you know, because us gays love brunch.
I love a brunch. You know what? I love a brunch. I love a drink special at a brunch. So when she showed up and she was double fisting those Caesars, I was like, you go, girl. You live
Bloody Marys. What the fuck is a Caesar?
I'll treat you to one when you come up to Canada.
Wait. What is a Caesar? What's the difference?
So a Caesar is with Mott's Clamato juice. So it's clam juice.
Clam and tomato juice, yeah.
Yeah. And for people who drink Caesars and people who drink Bloody Marys, there is a stark distinction, and the clam juice is not as disgusting as it sounds.
I mean, we have Clamato that you can buy, like, you know,
it's
at
not
the gas
the same.
stations here. Yeah,
it's not the same.
Okay. Anyway, so I was fully expecting to be graded, like annoyed by her.
Because she's great.
I like her a lot. And
Yeah.
because normally in films where there is a fruit fly, they're typically like really obnoxious women.
Yes, because oftentimes in real life, these women who latch on to gay men as accessories are truly annoying.
I agree. And the moment where I was like, oh, I really like this girl is whenever she confronts Cam at the gay bar, and she's like, why don't you ever come to a straight bar with me? And he's like, what's the point? And then she has this
And she's
line,
like, are you a fucking hypocrite?
no, and she goes, I don't want to perpetuate a stereotype, but you guys are selfish as fuck. And I was like, girl,
Yep.
yes.
Yes.
And I think it's like something like in gay culture because like and again, I'm not generalizing, I'm just kind of, even with myself, because I mean, I know I'm a selfish person, but like when you grow up gay and you like don't have a lot of opportunities and like you don't get to live a quote unquote normal teenage life as like you should be able to, when you reach your 20s and early 30s, I feel like you feel like the world owes you something.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least like when you're in an environment where you can like do things like in the LA club scene. So I feel like that is where that selfishness might come from. And I'm not a psychologist. This maybe isn't for everyone, but I just knowing it, like knowing what I've seen, like in my personal life experience, that's what I think it is. But her calling him out on that, I was like, oh man, she's so right and good for her.
I completely agree. I think if anything, she is almost used as a bit of a foil to dig out not just character background, like exposition, and be like, oh, who hooked up with who and what's like the format going to be. She's a really great like tension diffuser in terms of the way that she calls people on their shit. She allows for like a little bit of a reprieve from like the gay drama that's happening. And I like the fact that she's a real human being. Like her entire arc in this is, she comes on these weekends or these annual retreats with these boys. They treat her like garbage, but she loves them. But what she really wishes is that they would actually respect her friendship the way that she's, bending over backwards to make sure that they feel okay.
Well, that's the thing. She's a really good friend to all of these people. And the movie is kind of about her as the secret protagonist because the end of the movie is her getting her wish for Cam to go to a straight bar with her.
Well, I feel like the film not so secretly over time reveals that it is really about their friendship. So it's about Cam and Hannah, and then it's about him letting go of this toxic former relationship. Like, he lets Joel boss him around and make demands of his time, and even cheat with him and all these other things. And at the end of the day, there's this unfortunate, pup killer who's stalking them and killing off a bunch of people. But it's really the climax of the film is when he looks at Joel. Joel grabs him by the hand and is like, don't go. And Cam finally gets the willpower and the balls to say, fuck you. And then he and Hannah go and sit outside. Like, they go off and realize our friendship is authentic and it's healthy. We need to figure out how to proceed from here.
And even going back to Joel too. So with this whole Midnight Kiss game, like, he created it clearly just as an excuse to be able to be like, okay, I want to go off and just like fuck someone else. That's what this game was.
Yes. And for casual listeners, if you are in a relationship where you would like to step out and sleep with other people, have that fucking conversation.
Yes.
Don't make up a fucking game with 3 arbitrary rules and then impose it on your friends so that you can go and fuck other people.
Which, to be fair, they all seem to be into it. Like, no one had a problem with it.
I know, like, when he was describing it, I thought, you know what? If you were all single, this would probably be a little bit fun. Because it's like, go out, find yourself somebody, have like a little bit of an adventurous evening, and then at the end of the day, call it quits and like move on. That sounds enjoyable enough for people who are just, young and single and looking to have a good time.
Or if they are people who are together and they have an arrangement already that they're open and these are the rules. Like,
that's the other thing. Like, Joel should have just been like, hey, let's open this shit up.
Well, that's the thing, Logan finds out about the game on the road trip to the house.
Yeah.
It's because, hey, like, I feel like in the queer community, you know, there's like a phrase called like queering up the relationship, which usually involves bringing in outside people into the relationship. It's something that it works for some people, it doesn't work for others.
And this is for men primarily.
Men primarily, yes. And if that works for you, that's great. Do it. And if it isn't for you, that's fine. Don't judge other people that do. But It's all about communication in the long run, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And no one communicated in this movie.
Oh, no. I mean, that's the whole problem with everything that happens in this film, right? Is like, if people had just been honest about their goddamn feelings, nobody would have ended up dead. Maybe. Should we talk about the problem, Logan?
Yeah. So I almost think this movie would have been better had it not been a mass killer leading up to like a mask reveal. I almost think it would have been better if it was just like we knew the whole time who Logan was, what he was doing.
I didn't mind that. To me, I almost wish that it hadn't escalated to killing and it had have just gotten into... it sounds dumb to say, but like emotional horror, where it's just okay. So I haven't maybe even
seen, like a Saw type game.
Yeah, just something that allows this to unfurl organically over the course of an hour. Like, to me, everything is working up until the point where they leave the bar. And then at that point, the character development just kind of stops and it becomes about this big killer reveal. But of course, by process of elimination, either who's been dead or who's absent, like the minute that you see Joel, get knocked around and then he shows up with the firecrackers in his mouth?
Yes.
At that point, you're like, okay, well, there's only one person left. It could be it's Logan, obviously.
So for a minute, I almost thought it was going to be Hannah, like, around the halfway point of the movie. And honestly, after that conversation she had with him at the bar about being selfish.
Right. But it might have worked.
Yeah, but the second that Cam runs into Logan outside as he discovers there's a killer in the house, that's when I was like, oh.
You're like, where the fuck you been? Oh,
you've
been off killing people. Yeah.
But he doesn't kill Dante because it's fucking Joel.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the most fascinating part about this second act or the second half of the film is the fact that there are two killers, and the more important kill is actually Joel's murder of Dante.
Right.
The other stuff is more tried and true, kind of parsley kind of stuff of a rote slasher film.
Well, there's a lot in this movie, and I almost wonder if maybe there was a pressure both on Erlinger and Carter to get to cover as many bases as they could, of queer life.
Well, or they may have been so inclined, like, okay, we've got an opportunity to present a bunch of different types of gay men, really dig into what gay culture looks like right now, talk about those relationships, talk about some of the toxicity that comes out of, exes dating incestually and all these other things. And I think that's why we enjoyed the first half of the film so much, is because these are conversations that we literally never see represented on screen.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the first half of the film was so fascinating to me because it's like I felt it, maybe not specifically, but I felt represented on screen by these characters.
Fucking finally.
Exactly, and that's this movie. I think this movie is a 3.5 for me. I'm at the 3.5 marker. I'm like, you know what? I like it. I have qualms with it, but overall it's a 3.5.
Yes, I agree. I do. I would love to hear from straight viewers about whether or not they connect with this at all.
Well, and on that note, if you didn't, imagine how us gays feel watching straight movies all the time.
All the fucking time.
And that's the thing. It's
and having the one token gay, basically having Zach saunter through and get murdered, or having, a cheating boyfriend storyline as a tertiary background storyline unfolding in your fucking Hallmark Christmas movie. It's so refreshing to just get all queers. I'm sorry, but it is.
Even if you're gay and you don't, you're not a part, or you don't like club culture, even before they get to the club, this, you don't like brunch, or, whatever, you don't go, because again, those are stereotypes, but they're stereotypes for a reason. You can see something of yourself, see someone or even a part of yourself in any of these characters, because there is kind of a wide spectrum of gay men in these characters.
Yes. Yeah. So then we get to Logan, who is also, in a way, his own trope, which is the person who was not ready to come out, who had a not great sexual experience where he thought it was, who hasn't had a kiss with someone and thought it was going to turn into something, and it turns out to just be nothing at all. So you get ghosted, or you find out it was a dare, or it was a prank, or whatever. And then, the negative implications on your self-worth. I don't think most people wait 7 years and then go on a killing spree, but I saw...
Well, he was in it for the long con.
I was like, girl, why did you wait 7 years? Like, that's one of the other frustrating things where I'm like, I just don't care about this, because why would you... work your way into this friend group and wait this long.
Well, and then also, I don't really understand why why did he want to kill Ryan? Why did he want to kill Zach? Like, why all of them? Why not just go for Cam, who's the one who kissed him, and I guess Joel, who's an asshole?
Well, we're in urban legend territory, right? Where I'm just going to kill anybody who's in a proximity.
Right.
Like, they're all members of the group who participated in this farce, and he's building up to Cam.
Well, and I guess then in that respect, though, it would have made... Yeah, you're right. And I'm not going to question the logic too much, because it's just, it's slasher movie stuff, know? But, even killing Ryan before he gets... Oh, I did so, so Ryan went off with the Silver Fox. That's why no one missed him. And then Zach, you knew he was going to die next, because he already said, I'm probably going to have to leave early. So that way when he does die first, no one notices.
Yeah, and then they get, of course, the obligatory text from him. So Logan clearly stole his phone and then sent a text being like, hey guys, I'm going to this party, so they don't question where he's been.
But then it's like, why? They do find Zach's body, but I guess, he gets the video. He says in the video of Ryan in the shower.
Yes.
Dead.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, and he killed Ryan because he knew he wouldn't get an opportunity to kill Ryan because Ryan weren't coming.
That makes sense. All right, you're right. So, okay, Logan.
But
yes.
Sidebar, before you get too much further, can we talk about the sorority row influence death of Zach? Did you love it?
I did. So honestly, because when he first shoved it down, you see it bulging his throat. You get the same thing with Chugged in Sorority Row. But I actually think this is a more graphic kill. The only thing that I was missing was the final blow, because in Sorority Row, he slashes her throat, so you see her blood gurgle up in the bottle. You don't really get this here. You just I don't even think. Oh, you know what though?
This could be the missing
VFX. Yeah,
or it could not be. Who knows?
It might not. If there's no blood, that's fine. But in the version we saw, the bottle goes down Zach's throat, and you see his throat bulging with the bottle, and you hear the bottle breaking. You don't see any blood.
Yeah.
So
I do like that the champagne bottles come into effect not once but twice in this movie as a weapon.
Oh yeah.
If you're gonna put champagne bottles in every room, you best be using them as weapons. So good on you, Erlingur, for bringing that full around.
My boss actually told me that she only drinks beer out of a bottle because her dad told her if she ever was in a bar fight that she just needed to always have a beer bottle in her hand so she could break it across the table and have a weapon.
Jesus Christ, that's how people die.
She grew up in Oklahoma on a ranch, and she was like, yeah, so and she's in her late 40s, early 50s, I think. But she's like, yeah, I spent a whole summer with my dad practicing breaking beer bottles over a table end.
Jesus.
I was like, maybe I'll switch to bottles now because that does make sense.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I think that's also a female problem and less so a male problem.
Probably so, but basically it wasn't to actually get in a fight. He was basically no one will ever fight you because the second you break out the bottle and you break it, people aren't going to mess with you.
Yeah. Because for a moment there, I did wonder if maybe Zach was going to be able to fight him off. You don't often see men getting choked to death.
Yeah.
And then the minute that he smashed that bottle, I thought, oh, okay. Well, Zach, it's been good to know you.
Now, the second, though, this killer walks in with the pup mask and is caressing Zach and Zach's into it, I believe that.
Oh, yeah.
There was no who are you? Why are you touching me?
Yeah, and I love that he, who did he think that was? Just one of the members of the group? Doesn't matter.
It could have been one of the members. It could have been a hired sex worker.
Right.
Which I would believe that this group would hire. Who knows? Or maybe it was Ryan. Maybe it was Ryan pop. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But
no.
So anyway.
The thing is we've all met Zach in a version of Zach in our own lives. Yeah. And it's Yeah, if somebody just showed up in a mask and started touching you and maybe taking off part of your clothes, you'd be like, yeah, Zach would have gone along with that.
Yeah. I almost feel bad that we've talked more about just like the issues this movie raises than the movie itself, but we haven't had a movie like this in a long time to like talk about just like gay life.
Well, yeah, I mean, because that's what I most appreciated in watching it. Like, it's relatively straightforward in the way that there's a group of people, they come together for a special occasion, there's secrets that they need to tease out. It's actually very similar to New Year, New You, and which I've only seen the first half of. So I actually don't know how that escalates.
Oh, you should finish it. It's pretty good.
Well, I wondered, actually, if you feel comfortable comparing the two, because they're both the New Year's entries, and that one has a queer representation in it as well, does it not?
I don't think so.
Okay, I thought I read that one of the girls was either bisexual or a lesbian.
She might have been. I mean, I haven't seen it since like January.
Or maybe it's just that there's lesbian undertones between the two girls.
Yeah, between the girl from The Bad Batch and the girl from Mr. Robot and Superatory.
Right. But I did wonder, because that one seemed more like we're gonna spend the entire movie inside this palatial, upper middle class house.
Well, it is, but it's like, one of their friends became this social media maven, influencer, and there's a possibility that she did it like after like possibly killing someone or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, because the idea that there's secrets within the group that will come out over the course of this one specific night, which is like a special occasion.
They're very comparable films, and I actually would put them. I ranked that one a 3.5 as well. I think because and that's Sofia Takal, who directed Black Christmas, which by the time this episode is released, we will have seen already. But as of this recording, we have not seen yet.
Yes. Just to make it extra complicated.
But I think they would make a really good double feature because, yeah, you got a group of guys here, gay, and a group of girls in that movie, which most, I think, straight, maybe a bi, maybe a les, I don't know. But
right.
Oh, and Kirby Hall-Baptiste is in that.
I don't know that I knew who that is.
You do know who that is because we already talked about her, but she's the girl Simone Chidi's girlfriend, Australian girlfriend.
Okay. Yeah. I don't always know names.
Veronica Mars, I know, but you need to learn Kirby Hall-Baptiste because she's great.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, no, I think they make a great double feature, though. I mean, I rank them both the same, 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah. But I mean, when we come down to it, like the main reason that you and I even wanted to cover this is because it's two people that we know who are very active in the community. Like they're on the cusp of, they're the next generation of queer horror filmmakers. Like I've been waiting for Erlinger to direct his next feature because really, I think everybody looks at Rift like it's his debut. It's not his debut, but it's the film that got him a lot of international acclaim, and he hasn't done anything since. So when I found out that it was not just Carter Smith, but also Erlinger doing this, it's like, yes, bring it on.
And Carter hasn't directed a movie in 5 years since Jamie Marks is dead.
Yeah. So we've
and before that, it was The Ruin. So it's like,
yeah. So this is like a queer horror event. And I'm super excited that it's so accessible. Like people with Hulu, people can just watch it at home. Like queer horror is going to saturate people's houses as they enter 2020. That's so exciting.
It's amazing. And we are getting off of Logan.
Sorry. Okay. Come back to Logan. So what do you think of his sob story motivation?
Okay. I get it. I mean, I don't get the waiting 7 years for it.
Yeah.
Because it's very much like, why? Why don't you just go fucking kill these guys?
Yeah.
But again, whatever. Why is Rebecca Gayheart torturing Natalie for a whole movie, but she kills the other girl who was actually responsible for her boyfriend's death, like in the first scene,
Spoiler for Urban Legend.
I know. But the thing is, it's such a... Well, okay, I'm conflicted. Because it's also both, it's the gay killer. I mean, granted, it's a gay movie, but he is a killer because of a gay circumstance that he was in. If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
I guess you could have it. I guess it's specifically inherently gay, but because he brings up like I wasn't even out yet and I did this, like that makes it more gay. It's not like I was a teenage boy, I kissed a girl and like she like or I was a 18-year-old boy, I kissed this 19-year-old girl and like she it was just a game for her like. Whatever. This is inherently tied to him being gay because he specifically mentions I wasn't even out yet. I wasn't ready.
Yeah. And I love that we've got the thematics of that's why he wears a mask to kill in the modern time, because he was masked at that time because he wasn't out.
Right. And that's one thing. I don't think it's bad. Because it's such a weird thing with the gay killer, because on a level with a lot of them, I get it. And I think this movie handles that part at least kind of well. I just wish, like, I wasn't offended by it, basically, by his motive or anything. I just wish that there was more time devoted to it. Like, he gets like a very short villain monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, you know, it's an 86-minute movie. We don't have time for like a after school special lesson of whatever, but it felt so much like it was just a twist, and not like any emotional depth that this had was kind of lost, I think, in the translation.
No, and I wonder if it's because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter why Logan is doing this, because it's really about Cam and Joel's relationship. Because if you think about the way that they react to this revelation is very different, right? Like, Cam tries to be understanding. He tries to forge a connection. You know, I didn't know, I didn't realize. And Joel, meanwhile, is just like, you motherfucker, I'm going to kill you.
And it's like, he's engaged to this person. Like, okay, like, hypothetically, I don't know how long these guys have been dating. Like, because do they ever say like when they started dating?
No, but I get the impression that it hasn't been a super long time.
Okay, but nevertheless, let's say I'm dating my husband for 2 years and I'm engaged to him. I all of a sudden realize that he's a serial killer. That's not going to be my reaction. But I'm not Joel, you know? I'm going to be like, what the fuck, dude? Like,
yeah.
It's just like Joel seemed so over the top evil in this movie to me that I was like, I just don't buy him as a person. I don't know.
Oh, really?
I mean,
I didn't have that issue at all. I felt like he felt very familiar to me in the way that there are insidious members of the queer community who actively prey on vulnerable men and use that to their advantage to get sex, to get favors, to just feel more powerful.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And all of this, like all these opinions we're making are all based on our personal experiences, and it seems like it's just so weird. Like, I mean, like I have.
How often do we ever get to talk about like, oh wow, that's like this person that I know? Like, never, because we don't ever see those people in film.
It's just so. I mean, again, and these aren't like crazy 3-dimensional characters, but they're better than like some of the 1-dimensional stereotypes we get. They're 2-dimensional characters.
Yeah. So, question then: how did you feel about the fact that the quote-unquote most promiscuous character and the most effeminate character, and then the other person of color are the victims in this film? Part of me wished, actually, that they had have kept Zach around longer. I was thinking about this throughout the day. So I just watched this afternoon, so I've been wrestling with it for the last couple of hours. I was wondering if this one would have benefited from having a few additional bodies.
I think it would have, because again, I thought for sure they were going to kill Hannah, to be honest. I really thought they were going to kill her. And that we're left with Cam and Joel and Hannah alive at the end of this. So yeah, 3 people die? I mean, I guess 4 if you count Logan. But Logan kills 2 people and Joel kills 1.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I feel like the real revelation in this movie is not that Logan is the killer. It's that Joel is so crazy that he is willing to murder to make sure that his ex stays single.
The emotional climax of the film is when Cam realizes, like, after Logan is dead and he confronts Joel by the pool. That's the emotional climax, not the reveal of Logan being the killer.
No. That's like your Hollywood ending, and then the emotional through line of the film is that conversation between Joel and Cam.
And that's the thing, and I guess maybe I just wanted more I wanted more of a conversation between Logan and Joel, or Logan and Cam and Joel, like, in that climactic moment, to just, like, I don't know, it felt very slight of him, like, you know, I get it, I can fill in the blanks myself, but I wanted the movie to show, or fuck, give me a flashback. I don't even care. I'll be fine with that.
Well, technically, you did get a flashback, but it was just to the club.
I know.
I don't agree. I don't disagree with you. I think it might have benefited to have even just an additional scene of Joel and Cam getting away from Logan before they kill him so that they can actually be like, holy shit, this guy is trying to murder us. This is your fault. No, this is your fault because you're the one who actually kissed him. And, you know, like being able to exchange that, because they just murder Logan. Like they get out of it, they murder him, and then it's daybreak, and really at that point, Logan is not a topic of conversation anymore. It's literally just about like, oh, I was always in love with you and I want you to stay with me. And then this revelation that, oh, you actually killed the person I was going to hook up with.
It does also explain, though, why Logan didn't want to do Molly at the club. And also why he doesn't start killing again until later, like after, because like, they had the scene of him where he's in the pool, like cooling off, after, like figuratively after the argument. Yeah. And they kind of try to make you think that the killer is like around him,
which I appreciated.
He was coming down of his roll, which is why he wasn't killing it. Because when you're rolling, you don't want to kill people. You're happy.
Yeah, I also like the red herringness, which is actually, it's a bit of a foreshadowing device where Cam goes looking through the club and he actually stumbles upon Logan making out with a couple of different guys. And Logan actively tries to lure him in. And I think it's because you're also meant to believe that Logan has been fixated on Cam this whole time. And maybe had something happen there,
yes,
the evening would have gone different.
That makes total sense. I agree with you there. But alas, it went the way it did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike it. It didn't come together as well as I would have liked. And
no, I mean, but I don't think there's more to say about that. I mean, like, it's a solid movie.
Yeah,
I am grateful that it is what it is and that we are getting it released on a fucking major streaming platform by Blumhouse. Mm-hmm. I do wish the third act were a bit stronger, and I don't know if it's like, you know, the slasher conventions are fine. I don't think that the chase scenes are particularly suspenseful, except for whenever Hannah is confronted by him and he slashes her leg. Like that was the one time where I was like, oh
yeah,
but you know,
yeah. I think that and the reveal that it's Joel who's actually suffocated Dante, that legitimately, I was like, because I had it in my notes, I was like, and then Logan kills Dante. Yeah. And then I was like, backspace. Oh, Joel just killed Dante.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm interested to see what people think about this. I do agree that I want to hear from straight listeners about what they thought of this. And all of you, gay, not gay, queer,
the two binaries, yeah.
Yeah, all of that, the umbrella term. I've started using queer so much more since we started like doing this podcast because it's just so much easier. Because I feel like by saying gay, I'm leaving people out.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But yeah,
I hope we get a all lesbian version of this somewhere down the road too.
Ooh, yeah, and then one day a trans version of this.
God, just all of it. Stop making movies with straight people. They're so boring.
I mean, Ryan Murphy will do it.
Oh, God. I don't want to see him tackle anything.
But you know what? At least, because he does Pose, right? That's him?
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean
he gets Pose made, and then other people bring the legitimacy to Pose.
Right. There you go. But yeah, so it's solid film. Thank you, Carter Smith. I'm glad that you made this. Thank you, Erlingur, for writing this. Good movie. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that about does it for this one.
Yeah, so I think we can cross out Midnight Kiss and 2019.
Yeah, and cross out Horror Queer's Patreon.
Atlas Avenue, a long stretch of road that encompasses everything the city of Kennett Heights has to offer. Neon lights, traffic, crime, the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and the craziest of characters. My office was above it all. My name is James Locke, and I'm a PI.
Hello, Mr. J. How the hell you doing today?
Good, Edith. Nearly every year I have a new case. New people to meet, new clues to discover, and new problems to solve. But I do it the old-fashioned way. No technology. Nothing post-1950. Hell, I don't even listen to podcasts, but you should. Atlas Avenue Beat is a spoof of the film noir genre with goofy characters, tons of wordplay, and non-stop raunchy humor. There's also 3 whole seasons out right now with more on the way. Just search for Atlas Avenue Beat wherever you listen to podcasts or visit us online at bloody.fm.